So, you and the boys have just gotten back into RuneScape. You finished dusting off that dragon scimitar when you realize that you need some money. So, you think of the most old school way of making that money, and that's the Barrows. Let's get you started. Barrows is a good and decently fun way for mid to low levels to make money, especially since uniques are actually very common here. The only requirement you need to do Barrows is to have the Priest and Peril quest completed, but if you're an Iron Man, you'll also need to have completed Nature Spirit to access the swamp area in order to get to Barrows. To do Barrows, you only really need 50 magic, 43 prayer, and 60 in attack and strength, but it is really recommended to have at least 40 defense and 50 range. It'll make it a lot easier. As for other helpful things to have, if you're an Iron Man, you'll really want to have Fairy Tale Part 2 started to the point where you can use Fairy Rings, because that will make getting to Barrows a lot easier. Otherwise, 75 Mage is a really big milestone for Trident weapons. High Prayer and High Agility are always helpful since you'll be praying a lot and running a lot here, and 82 Construction is a really nice thing to have for your player-owned house, where you can restore your stats and teleport straight to Barrows, but it's obviously not necessary. Something that confuses a lot of beginners to Barrows is what combat styles they need to bring. So to simplify it for you, I'll tell you this. You're always going to bring magic and melee, always. If you have above 50 range, you should bring range as well, but if your range is below 50, then it's fine. You don't have to bring it, but it will be slow. What magic weapon you use at Barrows is very important. Obviously, the best magic weapon to use is a Sanguinesti staff, but if you're watching a Barrows guide, I'm going to assume that you don't have access to that. So otherwise, the best weapon to use is a Trident of the Swamp. It does require 75 magic and about 5 mil to buy though, so obviously not everyone can use it. The second best weapon is a Trident of the Seas, which also requires 75 magic, but is much cheaper and much more accessible. But if you don't have 75 magic, then the best weapon to use is the upgraded Ivan's Staff, which requires you to have 50 magic and attack, as well as completion of Underground Pass, and 200k to use to upgrade the staff. You'll be using it to cast Ivan's Blast. I wouldn't recommend going with anything below an Ivan staff since it's just so good and a very easy, low-level, cheap option, but if you really can't be bothered to do Underground Pass, then there's a couple other options I'll mention. You can always just use your best elemental spell, bonus points if you have a Tomb of Fire and you're casting fire spells, which will give it a damage boost. Other than that, there's also a very old school method of using the Slayer Dart, which does require 55 Slayer, but it's just much slower and I wouldn't recommend it. For gear setups, this is the absolute minimum I would go with, and it'll do just fine. The important things to highlight is that you'll need a spade to get into the Barrows crypts. You should also bring a Barrows teleport tablet that you can buy off the Grand Exchange, and also a Ring of Dueling for quick banking and easy transportation back. Also, if you have 50 range, make sure you're bringing your range setup. A magic shortbow with the best dragon hide and arrows you can use will do just fine. You might also be wondering why you're maging in a full melee outfit, and the reason for this is because the Barrows brothers have no magic defense whatsoever, except for Carol, but we'll talk about that later, meaning that even if you're maging in full melee gear with negative bonuses, you'll still hit just fine, so don't worry about that. This next setup is more of a mid-level setup, but just remember that the setups aren't absolute. You can bring whatever you have, and if you have downgrades, like you have dragon armor instead of Barrows armor, that's totally fine. As well, if you have upgrades like the occult necklace, you should obviously bring them. If you still can't use a trident, then Ivan's Blast is just fine, and the only thing that matters is that you have a high melee defense as well as a range switch and melee weapon switches. One last thing I need to address is that I see people running around here in Void Mage gear, which is terrible. Don't bring it here. You don't need the accuracy whatsoever, so don't bring it. And the other thing I see people do is running around in Mystics. I understand why, because it does feel weird to mage and melee armor like I explained, but it does not matter. You don't need the accuracy, so just stick to what I've shown you. Here's where Barrows is on the map, but if you're a main, you actually don't have to have any idea whatsoever where Barrows is, because you'll be teleporting straight in with the Barrows teleport tablet you buy off the Grand Exchange. If you're an Iron Man, on the other hand, you're out of luck. Here's some advice I can give you. Every 20 minutes you can use the minigame teleport to teleport to Shades of Morton, and that'll take you very close by and you can just walk over. When your minigame teleport is on cooldown, you can use an Arden Cloak to teleport to the monastery, run over to the Fairy Ring, and use the code BKR to get to Mortmire. From there, you can run to the Swamp Bodhi in the Hollows, and that'll take you very close to Barrows. This does require you to have started Fairy Tale Part 2 in order to use the Fairy Rings, but you don't actually need the quest requirements to get that far, so if you're an Iron Man, there's no excuse to not have that done, unless of course you're a certain Mauritania-locked Ultimate Iron Man. When you get to Barrows, you'll notice that there are 6 mounds. Each one you can dig into by digging with a spade on top of it, and each one has a Barrows brother inside that you'll need to kill. 4 of them use melee, 1 of them uses magic, and 1 of them uses range. Here I've shown which ones use which styles and how you should be dealing with them defensively. Against Darok, Carol, and Aram, you'll want to be praying against their respective styles, but against Torag, Varrock, and Guthin, you can just tank them with armor, assuming your defense is high enough. If it's not, then you can just pray for all of them, but you will need to use prayer potions, especially because every so often you will see a floating head, and that will drain your prayer by 8 plus 1 for how many brothers that are killed, so anywhere from 8 to 14. Can I get a hands up for how many people were scared by this as a kid? I've now put numbers on the diagram to indicate what order you should kill the brothers in. Darok, Carol, and Aram come first because you'll want to be praying against them, and if you get them out of the way first and your stats are high enough, you won't actually have to use any prayer potions, since your prayer won't be drained until you've killed them. From then, you can tank the other 3 melee brothers. Also, if your magic level is high enough and you're wearing Black Dragon Hide or better, then you can also just tank Aram, but I would not recommend it for lower level players since he will beat you up. Every Barrows run you do, one brother will be randomly chosen to have a tunnel instead of appearing in the crypt. When you come across a tunnel, leave it alone until you've killed all the other brothers, and then come back at the very end. I'll explain more about the tunnel later in the video. Let's go through a Barrows run. The first brother you're killing is Darok in the northeast corner. He uses melee, and his special ability is that the lower health he is, the higher he hits. Using this, he can hit up to 60 or more when he's low health, so this is why you always want to be praying against him, and don't take it off even when you think you've killed him, just in case he smacks you for 60. Next, you'll go to the southernmost crypt, which has Carol in it. Carol uses range and hits very hard and very accurately, so you'll want to be protecting range at all times, even if your defense is very high. He does actually have some magic defense, unlike the melee brothers, but it's not really a problem. It will be a little slower to kill him, but you'll still just mage him down. His special ability is that he can lower your agility level, which is annoying, but it's not really a problem since you'll be restoring your stats after every run at the Clan Wars portal or at a player-owned house. To make killing him a bit faster, you can take off your melee gear. It won't matter since you're praying range, so he can't hurt you, and it will increase your accuracy a bit. You can also do this for any brother that you're praying against. You can take off your melee gear to make yourself a bit more accurate. Like I said, it doesn't really matter for the melee brothers, but you might as well since you have nothing else to do. The next brother to kill is Aram. He's in the very middle, and he uses mage. Like I said earlier, if you are a lower level player, he will absolutely tear through you, although if you're a higher level player with a good magic level and good magic defense, he actually doesn't hit too hard. You want to range him, but if you don't have a good range level or range gear, then you can melee him. It is much slower though, but still way faster than using mage. Aram's special ability allows him to reduce your melee stats, but that's not really a big deal. The next brother we'll go to is Guthin. He's in the southeast corner. His special ability is that he can actually heal off the damage he does, but he doesn't hit too hard, so it won't really be that much of a problem. If you have any prayer left over, you should pray against him, since praying against his attacks will prevent him from healing, which will speed your kills up just a little bit. The next brother we'll be killing is Torag in the southwest corner. Torag doesn't really hit very hard at all, so even if you're a low level player, you should have no problem tanking him. His special ability is to drain your run energy, but that's really not going to matter at all. Finally, in the northwest is Varrock. Varrock can be a little bit complicated because he has a 25% chance to hit through your prayer and armor, so you will probably have to use a bit of food on him. Otherwise, though, just mage him as normal and it should be fine. Now let's talk about the tunnel. Every Barrows run you do, one of the brothers will have a tunnel at random. Once you've killed all the other brothers, you'll go to the tunnel and enter it. Once you enter, you'll be in one of the 4 corner rooms at random. This will be the only way you can leave the tunnel if you forget a teleport, so you can keep that in mind, but you really shouldn't need to ever leave through the ladder. The goal of the tunnels is to get to the center room, which has a chest in it, but the center room will only have one of its 4 doors unlocked, and you'll have to go and find that. Additionally, there will only be one way out of the room you enter in, but every other door in the tunnels is unlocked besides for those. When you're going through the tunnel, the Barrows brother that you didn't kill might spawn when you open a door. If you see him, make sure to kill him. If he doesn't spawn when you open a door, then he'll spawn at the end when you try to loot the chest, and make sure you kill him before looting the chest. Since your prayer will be drained in the tunnel, if you get one of the brothers that you need to pray against in the tunnel, you'll have to sip your prayer potion in order to pray. The last caveat of the tunnels is that the door that is unlocked to the chest room will require you to solve a puzzle to go through it. The puzzles are very simple, and if you're using a third-party client, then they will solve the puzzles for you, and I would recommend that. But it's not hard to memorize them yourself either. The answers I'm showing on screen. You'll notice that on my screen it shows a potential percentage number. The meaning of this is the rewards potential of your normal rewards, like runes and coins. It does not affect your potential for Barrows rewards as long as you've killed all 6 of the brothers. But if you want to maximize your reward value from runes and coins, then you should kill a few of the monsters in the tunnels. The exact value you want to hit is at 86.8%, and that will maximize the amount of money you get from your normal drops, but it can be kind of hard or inconvenient to memorize the exact number of things you need to kill, so I just recommend you kill 3 monsters if you're trying to get to the exact value. When you loot the chest, you'll have about a 1 in 15 chance of getting a Barrows item, and you can get multiple in one chest. If you get really lucky, you might even cop yourself a pair of Barrows gloves. Alright, I'm kidding, you don't get Barrows gloves here. Once you've looted the Barrows chest, you can use your dueling ring to teleport to Clan Wars, and from there, bank if you need it. After that, run straight west to the free-for-all portal, and once you're inside, you can instantly teleport back to Barrows to restore all of your stats. Of course, if you have a player-owned house with an Ornate rejuvenation pool, as well as a Barrows teleport, you can use that as well. That's all you need to know to really do Barrows, but there are a few more secret tips and tricks that I can give you. The first is that you can force spawn monsters or even Barrows brothers in the tunnels by just opening the same door over and over. On top of that, each corner room has a ladder in it, but only one of them is visible to you. The other 3 corner rooms still have ladders in them. They're just invisible, and you can actually use them to safe spot the melee Barrows brothers if you know where they are. I would recommend that you mark the tiles where the ladders are, and you can find them yourself by just walking around the room until you find a square that you can't stand on, even though there's nothing there. Another tip for the tunnel is that when you get in, you can zoom out and try to find the door that's unlocked to the chest room. You can tell which door it is because it'll be a lighter color than the other doors surrounding the chest room. This is especially easy to do if you're on resizable, but can definitely be done and fixed as well. The last tip I'll give you is that you can actually leave the Barrows brothers' room as soon as you get the XP drop of the attack that would kill them. You do have to be a bit careful with this though, since I can't even tell you how many times I've left with the Barrows brother on 1 HP because I miscalculated. It won't save you much time, but it can be a little helpful. That's all you need to know about Barrows. The guide's pretty much over, but there's one last thing I want to say to any subscribers that still follow me, if they even exist. It's been a long time since I posted a video, I know, and hopefully I'll have an update for you guys soon, but for now I'll just focus on making a few videos and seeing where that goes. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.